G'day, Professor Joseph Drew. As many of you will know, there's a parliamentary inquiry in New South Wales, another parliamentary inquiry in our federal government in Canberra, and they're all associated with various aspects of local government financial sustainability. In this video, I'll outline some really big impediments to getting good outcomes from these inquiries and flag some particular risks that I don't think most people are considering at present. So I'm not sure what people think happens when you call a parliamentary inquiry and you ask for submissions. What's typically happening, if you have a look at many of the submissions, is that they're light on evidence. What evidence is there is simply an aggregation of existing information, and what is written often has more of a flavour of matters of opinion than matters of evidence, and they're the same opinions that we've had many, many times in the past. So, I can talk from my perspective. I can put in a submission, and in fact I did. Am I going to spend the 6 months or so that it would take to get rigorous empirical evidence? Would my workplace allow me to do that? Would they fund me to do that? Do I even have time when you call an inquiry and you've got about 4 weeks to make a submission? The answer to all of those things are no. So typically the quality of the submission, so it's no one's fault that's submitting. I submitted a submission too that's not at the standard which would allow for good decisions to be made, simply because people cannot invest the time and the money required to get the sort of robust empirical evidence that I produced last time prior to the 2016 amalgamations that ended in disaster. And prior to that, I showed that they would end in disaster because I did proper, grown-up, robust empirical work. And when you do really robust empirical work, you get a good basis for making decisions. Parliamentary inquiries are not going to have that robust foundation, and you have to wonder whether they can make good decisions. You also have to wonder about the proposition that lays at the heart, particularly of the New South Wales parliamentary inquiry. So last time, we started in 2012 and went all the way up to 2016. We got lots of evidence, came up with public policy prescriptions, ignored the robust scholarly evidence. I had 8 papers published with robust evidence. We ignored that, and we resulted in outcomes that have now been shown in 3 of the best journals in the world. It's beyond reasonable doubt. We resulted in outcomes that increased unit cost by 11% and made it harder, made these amalgamated councils less sustainable, less efficient. And we can see that in the massive special rate variation increases that have had to be approved. You can see that in the deficits and the perilous situation of unrestricted cash for those councils. So last time we spent about 4 years in a torturous process, and it ended really badly. Now the proposition is this time you can eschew rigorous, robust empirical evidence entirely, and you can do an inquiry in a month or 2, and you'll get good outcomes. I'm not quite sure why anyone's expecting good outcomes this time. And the timing is incredibly interesting. So I think they're doing their regional inquiries at the end of June. I guess they're reporting at the end of July or August. Now, in local government in New South Wales, we'll soon have elections, which means that local governments in New South Wales will soon be in caretaker mode. So we get rid of all the pesky voices of councillors when the report comes out. That's interesting. It's also interesting to me that we're going to have inquiries at the state and federal level into financial sustainability, or aspects of them, when a lot of councils still haven't produced, or some councils still haven't produced financial statements from June 30 last year because of auditor delays and because of delays at the council level as well, but mostly auditor delays. We're going to do this inquiry where we don't have a competent regime for measuring financial sustainability. We're going to do this inquiry where no one's adequately defined financial sustainability. Now, I've had videos in the past that have had to be taken down. You can judge what you want from those effects, causes and effects. But it does interest me how people think they're going to have financial sustainability inquiries without these basic foundation. It also interests me that people are still looking for the magic bullet. The one thing that makes us sustainable, that makes our assets all gold-plated and perfect, the one painless thing, because it has to be painless for an upper house inquiry of the state government or the federal government to put through a proposal to have a public policy intervention. So we're still looking for this one painless intervention that's going to make everything just perfect. Well, I would put to you that if there was one magic solution, we would have done it before, or someone overseas would have done it before. I'd put to you that the majority of the submissions which are talking about getting rid of rate capping, doubling the FAGs, and getting rid of cost shifting will not be recommendations that get implemented, because you've got state government and federal parliamentarians deciding on these matters. Do you really believe that they're going to say, oh, we'll stop cost shifting? Oh, isn't that terrible what we've been doing with rate capping? We'll get rid of that during the cost of living crisis. Or, we'll double the grants. We've got deficits as far as we can see, but we'll double the grants. Does anyone really expect that to happen? Maybe it does, and I'll be thrilled if it does. But I think a more pragmatic lens would cast doubt on the likelihood of those things happening. Now, these kinds of videos have a habit of being deleted. If you want to watch it and pass it around and all those sorts of things, or download it, it might be a good idea to do so. Look, I can only ask questions and talk about deductive truth using logic. That's what scholars do. There's nothing evil or bad about asking questions and talking about deductive logic. And I would encourage the key decision makers to engage in these ideas. We all want the same thing, better local government. But I know, because I worked right through that New South Wales amalgamation program, I lived through the Queensland amalgamation program. I know that if we go and make public policy interventions when we're flying completely blind, that's not going to end well. And I'd like us to avoid that this time. But it's up to the decision makers, it's up to you. Spread these videos around, give it the thumbs up, all those sorts of things, subscribe, and together, hopefully, we can make things better. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.